Good evening, spooks and spookettes. Count Drahoon here, and it is time for yet another feature of fright. Before we begin tonight's show, allow me to thank our patrons, Yancey Pearson, Morgan Mitchell, Rhonda Gentry, Nicole Johnson, Lucas Lanius, Courtney O'Halloran, Tyler Laney, Brian Veerling, and Stephen Doog. Join the ranks of the undead and go to featureofright.com/donate if you wish to become a patron through our Patreon page, or if a one-time donation suits you best this time around, go ahead and give through our PayPal. And now that is out of the way, let us get into the heart of the matter, and hopefully you won't feel the need to drive a stake through it. In order to properly describe our guest for this latest edition of Interviewed by a Vampire, I am reminded of a meme, of whose caption reads, "If you do not love Joe Bob Briggs, then you do not know him." And I honestly cannot think of a truer statement. His name and reputation garners respect from all cinephiles, even those outside of the realm of horror. With his unmatched knowledge of horror film trivia, sharp wit, and immeasurably talented hosting abilities, he has become a pop culture icon who has inspired an entire generation of horror fans and has introduced us to terrifying, gruesome, and inappropriate films that we love and did not know we needed. Spooks and spookettes, it is my honor to present to you the man, the myth, the Mad Texan, and the host of The Last Drive-In on Shudder, Mr. Joe Bob Briggs. JB, welcome to Count Drahoon's Feature of Fright.
Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you.
Count.
So, JB, let's jump right into it. April 24th, The Last Drive-In returns. Can you give us a preview of maybe the first couple of films we're going to be watching? And are you allowed to tell us any more films that you're showing for the first season other than the premiere night?
Well, I'm not even able to tell you the films on the premiere night because at the Last Drive-In, Shudder doesn't let us announce the titles in advance.
Oh,
we are going to break from tradition. April 24th, as you said, is the start of the second season. It's a 10-week season every Friday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. And it's a double feature every week. We are going to break from tradition and announce one of our guests because he's such a superstar on the very first on the very first weekend. So sometime in the coming week we'll announce who that guest is. Simply because we're just he's so famous that we have to announce it to take advantage of how famous he is. Usually we have our guests are character actors and people that are well known to genre fans, but in this case we're going to go ahead and advertise our guest.
In case there are folks out there who may, for whatever reason, are not familiar with you or your show, let's just suppose that there are Martians that listen to this show when they're new to Earth. How would you best explain The Last Drive-In to those folks?
Boy, that's a good question because nothing about the show makes any sense at all. We show horror movies. Sometimes we show classic horror. Sometimes we show cult horror. Sometimes we show 80s horror is always popular. We show horror comedy. We show foreign horror. And then we have commercial breaks. And I talked about the movie at the commercial breaks, even though we have no commercials. We're a streaming service. So it's silly. It's actually silly to have commercial breaks. And in fact, when we first outlined the format for the show, I was skeptical about pissing people off with that. But the producer's opinion prevailed, and we started doing it. And it's actually the format of the show has developed over 30 years. That's why it's hard to describe. started in the 80s, was refined in the 90s. I took 17 years off, and then when I came back, we were doing the same format, but we just added things to it. And so, we have different things that we do on every show, and it's always in the trailer park in Texas, and we have guests. Usually they're not famous guests, but they're guests that are of interest to the genre fans.
And speaking of, you talked earlier about the producer's opinion. I was just kind of curious because if memory serves me correctly, you were sort of you were a little limited on what you could do in terms of the kinds of films that you showed on Monster Vision and the movie channel way back when. My question is, do you sort of have more creative control on the kinds of films that you do show this time around, or is it still sort of the same give and take where it also kind of depends on which films you can actually get the rights to and which guests you can get in on the show?
Well, I've had every kind of situation. When I was at the movie channel, everything was uncut. We could show anything because we were a premium cable channel. We didn't interrupt the movie. We just did an intro and an outro for each movie. But as far as taste standards, there were none. So there were movies that they wouldn't show, even at a premium channel. I mean, they wouldn't show the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They wouldn't show Demons. There were 4 or 5. They wouldn't show I Spit on Your Grave. There were titles that were considered too grisly for cable, and so there were titles that we didn't show, but it was very few. Then in the 90s, when I was at Monster Vision at TNT, we had the opposite problem. I had access to a vast library of films. Ted Turner had bought the entire MGM library back in the early 80s. He'd bought other libraries. We had no dearth of material, but they had strict standards about what could actually be shown, and so the movies were edited. And especially the kind of movies that I like, the exploitation films, some of them got cut up pretty bad. So then at Shudder, we can show anything. The limitation is we can't license every film in the world. We have to choose what we license. And Sam Zimmerman is the curator of Shudder, does a great job of scoping out what's available around the world and getting us the best he can. But a lot of times those titles that we really, really crave, we just can't get them because somebody else has them. There's a lot of streaming services now, and so the other services might have them, or they might have some kind of clause in the contract that I can't interrupt the movie, and so we have that problem. But we always find enough to have a good time.
All legality aside, I can't imagine any filmmaker that would not want their film to be interrupted by you.
Oh, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
I would hate to meet that person. I do have to say, JB, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't call Demons by its proper title.
Demoni.
Demoni. You have such a fascinating Italian accent. Yeah, for some reason people like me to do that bad Italian accent. Well, some people say I have a bad Eastern European accent, so
I watched the taped replay of the night I hosted Demons, and I said to the person I was with, man, I was doing that hokey Italian accent the whole time. That was totally racist, wasn't it? He said, oh yeah, it totally was. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to get hammered for this. But so I never got in trouble for it. I don't think I would do it again, though.
Right. But it's funny. I know you've probably have talked about this on other shows, but needless to say, you're very politically incorrect, and yet you've managed to survive a potential onslaught of potential angry mobs over the things you've said.
Well, I don't know if I've survived them. I've had angry mobs since the 80s, so I think I'm just used to them. I'm just accustomed to it.
It does come with the territory with being a horror host, I guess.
Well, I was always my theory of satire is that you pick on everybody. You pick on everybody, and so you just be an equal opportunity offender, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work.
Oh yes.
You'll eventually hit a group that is so offended that they'll come after you. So. I'm never surprised that it happens. I'm always surprised what particular show or what particular article causes it. It's never predictable.
I see. So, kind of hitting on that, because you've had a long career, and during that time, you've met a lot of real heavyweights in terms of the horror genre and other pop culture icons. My question is, has there ever been a particular figure that you've really fanboyed over, or perhaps in the case that it was a past leading lady, maybe crushed over? If that's how the kids are saying it nowadays, I don't know.
The only guy I can think of that I'm kind of always starstruck by him is Roger Corman. I'm just such an admirer of Roger and what he's done. And we've become friends over the years, but it's sort of like, when I'm in the same room with him, I'm just, I just want to ask him a question. I just want to be a student of Roger. So I would say Roger Corman is like that. We used to have Scream Queen Appreciation Month, and I would be surrounded by Scream Queens. That was always fun.
Oh yes.
I can't think of it. Oh, Lance Henriksen. I would say Lance Henriksen. Stunningly talented actor. Very intimidating guy. He's actually a softie. He's easy to know and easy to talk to. But I would say Lance Henriksen is on that list.
And by the way, just out of my curiosity, because I know you've talked about him quite a lot on the show, but have you met Chuck Connors before? Did you have a chance to meet him?
Chuck Connors? I never met Chuck Connors, no. I think everybody else met Chuck Connors. I think he knew everybody in Hollywood and New York and everywhere else in the country. Chuck Connors was buddies with the premier of the Soviet Union for a while.
Really?
He knew everybody. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, the Count Drahoon and Joe Bob Briggs, the only two celebrities he didn't meet.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because I know that you've had the honor to show, your favorite film on the last drive-in, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if my memory serves me correctly. Is there another film that you're, maybe you don't quite have the chance to show it this season, but at some point you really have a passion to show in a future show on Shudder?
A film that I've never hosted that I would like to host?
Yes, sir.
That's a tough one. You know what? I don't think. Oh man, I'm going to get this wrong. I don't think I've ever hosted the original Exorcist. Now somebody's going to come up with the tape and prove me wrong. But I think I've written about it, but I don't think I have ever actually hosted it on a show. And so that would be one. I'm not sure. It's just like it all blends together after so many
No, I understand because you've hosted a lot of
I've
films.
done like 20,000 hours of TV.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's shift gears really quick because there's something else I really want to ask you about. It's your for lack of a better term, your lecture series, "How Rednecks Saved Hollywood." Uh, I, I don't want to give too much away because I want to encourage folks to actually go out and see it whenever it comes to a town near them. But is it possible to tell us in a nutshell how Rednecks saved Hollywood?
Um, that is my live one-man show. It's a multimedia show that I do all over the country. And it takes me 2 hours. It takes me in excess of 2 hours to explain how Rednecks saved Hollywood. So no, I can't. I don't
Right,
have
it's not a magic
version.
bullet.
I don't have any shortened version of it, but it's oh boy. It's full of information that you never knew that you wanted to know until I put it in the rear lobe of your brain. That's basically what it is. It's the whole history of the redneck as told through film. And the 400-year history of the redneck as told through film. I even identify the original redneck in history. We talk about it. And but it's really hard to explain. I'm blessed with I've never gotten a bad review on the show, so I think it's one of those things that it's a live show. I don't think I could ever do it as a TV show or as anything else other than a live show. And so you just have to come and see it.
And I'll
tell you this: by the time I'm finished with it, I'm exhausted. Hopefully the audience is not exhausted, but I'm exhausted by the time I finish that show.
Well, it's just so fascinating because that's an entire history of film and really just history in general that I'm not familiar with. And at some point, if you're ever in this area again, which we're fairly close to Nashville, Tennessee, I will definitely make an endeavor to go out and see it because the curiosity has got the best of me. But let me ask you this.
Well, you missed it because I was in Nashville just last May. I was at the Belcourt Theater.
Yes, I know.
Nashville, so.
And I was I heard about it. I think I had heard about you being there like literally the week after the tickets sold out, and I kicked myself in the proverbial butt because that was a major opportunity lost on my part.
Well, it was a homecoming for me because I went to Vanderbilt University, and the Belcourt Theater is right on the edge of Vanderbilt University. Now, when I was at Vanderbilt, it was a grindhouse. It was a dollar house. It was that's where you went to see cheap movies. Mm-hmm. Now it's like I was so shocked when I got there. It's like an artsy fartsy nonprofit cinema place. It's celebration of cinema.
Yes, it's quite fancy.
Anyway, it was fun being there. It was fun being back in Nashville.
And I know what you mean. It's sometimes it can be a little intimidating. I went there not too long ago before the plague broke out to go see The Color Out of Space. So that it's a real treat going to the Belcourt.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, and this is just sort of for kicks. I've heard it said by a stand-up comedian that a redneck is simply someone with the glorious absence of sophistication. And I was wondering if you concurred with that opinion.
A redneck is what?
It is someone who simply, with the glorious absence of sophistication.
Oh no, there is much more to it than that. There's a whole lot more to it than that. Rednecks were kicked out of 2 countries before they ever got to Appalachia. Mm-hmm. there's all kinds of aspects to being a redneck that involves, mistrust of all authority, propensity to bear firearms. It's not just the absence of sophistication. Although they value the absence of sophistication, a redneck doesn't trust someone who's too sophisticated.
I see. Do you happen to know where the word redneck comes from? I was always curious about that.
Redneck comes from, it was coined in the year 1830. It comes from our first female reporter, who's a journalist, whose name escapes me right now, but she was in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and she wanted to get across how uncouth Southerners were, and especially Presbyterian Southerners, and so she called them rednecks. And that was the first use of the word redneck. Why would the rednecks be red? Because they were farmers. They worked out in this. They were from Scotland and Ireland, and they were farmers. And so their skin broke out in red blotches. So they didn't suntan. So they're out in the sun all day as farmers, and they had this red blotchy necks because they had that Irish skin, Scottish skin, and so. But to call them rednecks, it was a put down. It was definitely a put down. It was much later that rednecks adapted the moniker for themselves.
I see. So shifting gears again, really quick. Over the years, you've had the pleasure of making appearances in a lot of interesting works of art, such as the film Casino. I believe you were in the title of it escapes me, but I believe you were in a Stephen King picture at one time. And then, of course, your memorable segment on Married with Children. I was kind of curious to see if we can expect Joe Bob to show up in any more movies anytime soon.
There's actually, there's one movie that's going to come out. It was supposed to come out in June, I think. We'll see if it still comes out in June. But I can't tell you the title because we're going to actually show it on the last drive-in.
Oh, great! Awesome.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't really seek acting roles. I mean, occasionally people ask me to do one, and I do it, but I don't really go out looking for those.
Of course. Now, there's a reason why I bring that up, because I am, right now, you and I have a mutual friend, I believe, exploitation filmmaker Donald Farmer.
Donald Farmer, right.
Yes, and I've been hounding him to make a sequel to Vampire Cop. Now, hear me out. You're much taller than me, so I think you could be the next Vampire Cop, and they could deputize me as your sidekick, and we'll just call it Vampire Cop 2, JB and the Count.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. I mean, Donald normally has about $5 for each movie, right?
Well, maybe if you, I don't know if that's adjusted for inflation, but we'll go with that.
I'm the cheapest actor in existence, and Donald may not be able to afford me.
Well, then what does that say about me? Well, we're wrapping up here, JB. But are there any other projects besides the Last Drive-In or How Rednecks Saved Hollywood that you'd like to take a few minutes to talk about?
No, those are the two main things that I do. I do the live show and I do the TV show. That's not, you can't call it TV anymore. I do the streaming show on Shudder, and I was doing quite a few conventions and film festivals. All of those have been canceled, so I don't know when those will start up again. I'm supposed to start doing my live show again at the Horror Film Festival in Salem, Massachusetts first time I'll be back out.
Okay, and then of course, in order for us to get updates on that, where is the best place we can follow you?
Well, you can go to my website, joebobbriggs.com, or you can go to my Twitter, The Real Joe Bob on Twitter, and I can keep you informed that way. But or you can just write to me at joebob@joebobbriggs.com, and I'll put you on the mailing list for all the stuff we send out.
There you have it, Spooks and Spookettes. Well, Joe Bob, I believe we're just about out of time. I just wanted to take just a quick second to really thank you for coming back. I'm glad that you have a new show on Shudder, because I know you never really went anywhere. You know, you were sort of doing your own thing and pursuing other endeavors. But when you came back, when you did that first marathon, I think the world collectively breathed a huge sigh of relief, because we needed you, and just thank you for all that you do for cinema and just being you.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
No problem. And of course, JB, you have an open invitation anytime you'd like to come back to Count Drahoon's Feature of Fright. So thank you again, sir, for coming on.
All right. Thank you, Count.
All right, and there you have it, Spooks and Spookettes. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have, but be sure to join me next time for yet another Feature of Fright. Until then, as far as things go, when things go bump in the night,
there are such things.